Following his horrific ordeal with Theo Silverton, poor Todd Grimshaw is struggling to cope, constantly drinking and having one-night stands. But in this latest installment, his behavior turns cruel as he humiliates Glenda Shuttleworth. The episode begins with Todd returning from another night not spent in his own bed to find Glenda getting ready for a date with Fraser, the man she chatted to in the Rovers who was acting as the driver for new character Celeste. Both Christina Boyd and Summer Spellman show concern for Todd, while Glenda takes a different approach as she calls him out for his recent behavior, which has seen him push away several friends. In the Undertaker's office, Todd learns from Celeste that Fraser is gay, and that he thought Glenda's interest in him was only as an LGBTQ+ ally. Given that Todd is feeling mischievous, he takes great glee in hearing this. Unfortunately, Todd is less interested in helping Celeste plan her funeral, and has something else on his mind. As she walks out of the office, Celeste tells Todd that his attitude stinks. Todd goes to the Rovers to carry on drinking, only to find Glenda there, spitefully telling her, "I came here to escape to you and your harridans." He accuses her of bitching about him by liaising with George to check up on him, and tells her to stop interfering. Glenda spits back, telling him that he risked pushing all his friends away and would end up as a nasty, bitter lonely old man if he continued down this road. Todd storms out of the pub, and runs right into Fraser. Returning to his devious old ways, Todd tells Fraser that Glenda was unwell, before laying on the flirting himself. Christina, Summer and Mary, meanwhile, turn up to the Rovers for drinks, with a downbeat Glenda deciding to join them. She feels as if she's been stood up by Fraser, and they all head to number 11. They all get a shock there, however, as she discovers a half-dressed Todd, who happens to have just hooked up with Fraser. "I know you're angry at me, but really? Did I deserve to be humiliated like that?" an upset Glenda says. Although Summer, Christina and Mary all criticized him, Todd was unrepentant, and stuck the knife in even further. At the end of the episode, Summer tries to get through to Todd, but he said that being nice is what led to everything that happened with Theo. He makes a bold pledge for the future, saying, "I am going to take whatever I want, to hell with everyone else." Spoiler warning. This story discusses recent Coronation Street developments and the early ITVX release. Todd Grimshaw is facing yet another painful turn in Coronation Street, with the latest episode delivering a cruel twist that leaves the Weatherfield favorite struggling to cope. The dramatic episode, available early on ITVX before its television broadcast, continues Todd's increasingly complicated story as he attempts to move forward from the chaos surrounding Theo Silverton and his troubled marriage. Todd has already endured an extraordinary amount of emotional turmoil, and the latest development threatens to reopen wounds he has desperately been trying to close. Todd, played by Gareth Pierce, has found himself caught between his own feelings and the complicated relationships surrounding him. His connection to Sarah Platt has also become increasingly important, particularly after Sarah's arrest for Theo's death. Recent scenes showed Todd visiting Sarah in prison, where the pair confronted the consequences of everything that had happened. Sarah had previously admitted that she killed Theo after hitting him with scaffolding, while Gary Windass helped dispose of the weapon. Todd was devastated by the situation, especially because Theo's death meant there was no longer any possibility of seeing him face justice. Despite everything, Todd made it clear that Sarah still mattered enormously to him. During their prison meeting, he reassured her that he would always love her, demonstrating just how complicated their friendship had become. But the latest twist suggests Todd's troubles are far from over. The cruelty of the situation comes from the fact that Todd appears to be trying to rebuild his life while the consequences of his past continue to follow him. Rather than receiving the fresh start he desperately needs, he is repeatedly dragged back into painful memories and difficult choices. And just when Todd believes he might finally have some control over his future, another emotional blow threatens to knock him off balance. One of the biggest complications is Todd's involvement with Celeste, the mysterious newcomer whose arrival has already created tension. Upcoming scenes reveal that Celeste has a deeply personal connection to Bernie Winter-Allahan. Todd is stunned to discover that she is the twin sister of Bernie's mother. the revelation puts Todd in an uncomfortable position. Celeste is desperate to reconnect with Bernie, but Bernie wants nothing to do with her. Todd finds himself caught in the middle, trying to encourage Bernie to reconsider while also understanding why she feels unable to forgive the woman who has returned to her life. Todd eventually learns that Celeste is dying, making the situation even more heartbreaking. He believes Bernie should perhaps use the opportunity to put the past behind her and reconnect with her aunt. However, Todd also gives Celeste some brutally honest advice of his own, telling her that she should stop chasing Bernie and make the most of whatever time she has left. For Todd, the situation becomes another reminder that life can change in an instant. His own experiences have taught him how quickly relationships can collapse and how difficult it can be to repair damage once trust has disappeared. That makes his attempts to bring Bernie and Celeste together particularly emotional. Yet Todd's personal struggles don't stop there. At the funeral parlor, his boss George has also become concerned about his behavior. Todd has been drinking heavily in an attempt to escape his problems, and George eventually confronts him about the situation. Todd then reveals more about what happened with Christina and her drunken behavior in the ginnel, leaving George with plenty to think about. It becomes increasingly clear that Todd is not simply dealing with one problem. Instead, several emotional pressures are piling up at once. His past with Theo. His complicated friendship with Sarah. The arrival of Celeste. Bernie's refusal to forgive her aunt. And his own increasingly worrying behavior. Together, these storylines create a particularly difficult period for Todd. The cruel twist is that Todd seems to be doing everything he can to help other people while quietly falling apart himself. He wants to support Sarah, even though her actions have caused enormous pain. He wants to help Bernie understand Celeste's situation, despite having no control over their family history. And at the same time, he is attempting to keep working and maintain some kind of normality. But how long can he continue? The upcoming Manchester Pride scenes could provide Todd with a temporary escape. He tells Celeste that he plans to attend, only for her to announce that she intends to join him. That creates another potentially awkward situation, particularly given the tension between Celeste and Bernie. Todd may hope that Pride will give him the chance to put his problems behind him for a while. Instead, it could become another emotional battlefield. Meanwhile, Sarah's prison storyline is becoming increasingly dangerous. After ending her relationship with Kit Green to protect his career, Sarah finds herself under pressure from fellow inmate Casey, who wants Kit to intervene in her son's problems. Casey ultimately threatens Sarah when she refuses. Sarah later contacts Todd from prison and tells him what is happening. Todd urges her to seek Kit's help and even warns that he will contact Kit himself if she refuses. This demonstrates the bond that still exists between Todd and Sarah, despite everything that has happened between them. However, Todd's willingness to protect Sarah could also put him in an increasingly difficult position. With Sarah already facing the consequences of Theo's death, Todd may soon have to decide how far he is prepared to go to help his former best friend. The more involved he becomes, the greater the possibility that Sarah's problems could become his problems too. For viewers, this makes Todd one of the most emotionally vulnerable characters on the cobbles. He is surrounded by people with secrets, anger, and unresolved pain, yet he continues trying to keep everyone else together. The latest episode therefore feels cruel not simply because of one shocking event, but because Todd appears unable to escape the consequences of the events around him. Every time he tries to move forward, something pulls him backwards. And with Celeste's arrival, Sarah's prison crisis and Todd's own emotional struggles all developing at the same time, the road ahead looks anything but easy. Fans will now be left wondering whether Todd can finally put his troubled past behind him, or whether another devastating twist is waiting around the corner. One thing is certain, Todd Grimshaw's latest chapter is proving to be every bit as dramatic and heartbreaking as viewers could have expected. Coronation Street airs on ITV1 and streams early on ITVX, with the soap continuing to deliver major twists across Weatherfield. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Crown ST.